Hey everyone, Andre here along with Tom and Ben Pavelsky. Did I get that right, Ben? Ben Pavelsky?
Absolutely.
All right, thank God. from who's a developer on King of the Hat, which is about to release on Switch imminently at the time of this interview. And Ben, I want to talk with you about this game for a while. I know Tom has been a big fan of this game, and I remember playing it years ago at a Nintendo Indie event, I believe. And now it's finally here, so that'd be a good time to catch up with you, find out more about this game, maybe why it took so long to, finally arrive on Switch, because it had already been on the Discord game store. It had been on a store that came and went since now finally being on Switch. So I guess to start things off, can you give us a little bit of background on yourself and what you do at the studio?
Sure. So my name is Ben Pavelsky. I'm a game developer at Hat Games. We're all very generalist here, but I very much handle a lot of our business administrative side. I make our trailers. I'm the sound designer, integrator. I'll do a lot of our DevOps. If any coders know what DevOps is, you're really just kind of one with many hats, as is the case at Hat Games. Everyone has too much to do and not enough time, so we all take off one hat and put on the other one. And we're talking about King of the Hat, which is our debut title. It is a hat-based party brawler fighting game, kind of like Super Smash Bros. It's a very simple game where you can jump, and the point of the game is to jump on other players' hats to get points and win matches. You can also throw your hat at them to knock their hat off and get kind of a positional advantage. So it's very much inspired by games like Super Smash Bros, like Towerfall, like Mario. But we wanted to make it very simple, but still give it that depth of play and accessibility that we feel those titles offer.
Yeah, I know Tom and I have been big fans of this game since we played it. The gameplay just clicks for me instantly. That's what I look for in a game. Am I able to understand it and have fun with it? Pretty quick. And this game is instantaneous because the idea of pairing your hat, which is both your weapon and your weakness, because once it's out there, your opponent can stomp on it, and that takes you out. That's kind of ingenious and adds a thrilling risk factor to every attack. So I guess if you could just give us a little bit of background on where that idea even came from, and how it may have developed over the course of the game.
Yeah, thank you for the kind words and the praise. We really try to make games that you have just described, just very intuitive, very easy to pick up, and as soon as you're holding the controller or keyboard, you're just really interacting with the core systems of the game right away. I don't remember the exact moment that we were like, oh, this is it, but we kind of were just iterating on ideas. We started with just a platformer, and we made Mario at first. We were like, okay, so we'll just make the characters jump on each other's heads to knock each other out, but that had already been done. So we were toying around with adding mechanics, and then at one point we put a hat on each of the characters' heads, not even mechanically, just to kind of show people that this is where you have to go. And then at a certain point, you could throw the hat, but the hat wasn't your life, and then the hat became your life. And when we made that change, everyone kind of felt it in the room. We were like, oh yeah, this is the one. With this, and build the game around this idea.
Oh well, it's definitely really it throws people off slightly at first, and they're like, wait, my hat is over there and it's gone. But once you get the hang of it, it's kind of like a chess game almost, or really thinking ahead, when to throw your hat away and when to keep it, and to protect yourself while using it as a weapon, offense and defense at the same time. Do you have any recommendations or strategies that you recommend for keeping on your hat a long time, or do you toss it away before going after people?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like a chess game, and I think a really good strategy at the absolute beginner level of play is just to jump on the opponent's hat, and then at the noob level, and then at the beginner level, it's to throw your hat, to experiment with throwing your hat. And then as you kind of play the game more, in your first hour to 2 hours of play, I really think the game becomes about throwing your hat and then planning your retrieval. So I'm going to throw my hat there, and I've already got a plan to get it back. And then, while you're getting it back, just looking for possible errors that the other player may have made and ways to kind of capitalize on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because you can kind of call back the hat whenever you want, or make it even jump when it's out and about to kind of throw off other players too. So there's a lot it's always fun to have a game where you're kind of controlling two characters at once, really.
So I think I forget if I mentioned it at the beginning, but I remember running into, I forget who it was exactly. I don't know if it was you or someone else, but this was years ago, maybe 2017, 2018. It was at a Nintendo event, and I ran into one of your developers, and they were describing this, this weird concept for a game to me. That I'm like, that sounds cool. I'd love to play that someday. And then, of course, a few years later, we finally were. Do you remember, like, at that early point, had the idea already been solidified, or was that still in the, like, were you guys still figuring it out at that time, or yeah, if you can remember that far back?
I do. I remember that far back, and we were actually watching the interview yesterday, just as prep, and it was Neil and I, and we both looked like total babies. Like we look like children, and it's hilarious. It's great, like just seeing how young we were, and basically the core game at that point was solidified, and we just had a lot to do in terms of menus, graphics, and online play, as well as porting for consoles. So most of the mechanics, like. Actually, the core game was solidified within, like, I want to say, like 3 months of development. 2 to 3 months. It almost came instantaneously. And then most of this project was about, like, peripheral stuff, and also just getting better at all of the soft skills, like art, animation, sound, music. So that was Neil and I. Neil did the online play, and I'm here, doing this interview. Yeah, that was a great event, Nintendo event at PAX West 2018. Really fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean, the game, like I said, clicked instantly at that point. And then it launched, was it in 2021, 2022 on Discord?
So it actually launched that same year on Discord.
That same year? Wow. God.
Yeah. For those in this interview who don't know, but this Discord has games now that you can play, but they're more kind of like party chat games that only require like one touch input. But at a certain point, they were actually trying to launch more premium games, like as a Steam competitor. So they launched this Discord store, and we were a part of that. And now we're not a part of it because they took their store down. Yeah.
That's a shame. So obviously the game was in a finished state at that point. So how come? So I guess, could you explain just a little bit, like, what the development was like in bringing the game to Switch, and why it took so many more years beyond that point?
Basically, the question is, why did the game was in a finished state in 2018? Why did it take 5 more years to launch it?
Yeah, basically.
I want to point out, I looked back at that PAX footage, and in my mind, it's the same. But when you look at it, there's things like there's not the outline stroke around characters. The menus are totally different. So it's kind of like Ocarina of Time original compared to Ocarina of Time 3DS in a little way. So, but continue, Ben.
Oh yeah, no, it really makes me happy that you noticed that stuff, because we noticed it too. As we're about to launch this game, we're looking back at all the earlier versions, and like in my mind, King of the Hat is always just King of the Hat as it is right now. Like, but actually, like, it has a lot of really ugly phases, and a lot of times where it's like, oh, this game, right? That's just like a kind of scrappy prototype. But so the reason that it took 5 more years to launch was, there's a lot of reasons. One is that, we were on Discord, and then Discord closed their store, and then we actually were going to be on Stadia too, and Stadia closed their store. So that's just a lot of dev work to be on platforms that didn't launch. That's putting a game on a platform is always a specific thing. It's always bespoke. So that was, I think all the specific tech for Discord and Stadia probably accounts for like 2 years of work. I think there was about 2 years of networking, that like just network improvements that were required to get the online play feeling like we wanted it to, because this game is so action packed, and it's all like the feel of the game is so important to its to like how it shows itself. So we wanted that to be great. We did a lot of visual improvements on the menus. We did a lot of improvements on the sound. We basically redid every single core system from 2018 to 2023, which I don't know if it was wise to take this route. And we also added an arcade mode. We made bots. We made golf. There was so much that we tried to pack into this game. Too much, actually. It's just way too much. But I think that's often the case. Like for a studio's first project, it takes a long time, and you're trying to get something out there, but you've never like we had never done a console launch before, so you're gonna make a lot of mistakes in your first time around any project. And yeah, I think two years extra time of just trying to ship to consoles that eventually closed down. I want to say 2 years of like improvements on juice, art, sound, music, maybe a year, and then 2 years online, a year on gameplay, bots. Bots were a very trying task. You know, it's really hard to make bots for a game like this. We had to make we basically had to, you know, do a fork of A star for any programmers in the comments. Yeah, just like a very sophisticated A star, and yeah, lots of features that made this game take forever.
So, is this scary working on a game for that long? Like when you first, you know, planned on bringing it to Switch, did you anticipate it taking that long? And is it scary when you realize, like, hey, we're several years out after our announcement and when it was playable and it still isn't on the console yet? You know, because we're adding these features and making it better. Is that you know, scary at all, or like really, or were you guys like, no, we just want to make it the best possible game regardless of how long it takes?
No, it's terrifying. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's absolutely terrifying, and like I think I just feel very lucky to have such a good team that worked on this, because it felt like as long as we were all committed to seeing it through to the end, that it would launch and we would cross the finish line. And like I feel that, you know, it never got to a point where I felt like King of the Hat's not going to launch, but it is very scary to be working on something for that long. And like, you know, I think one of the worst things that can happen to anybody working in games or tech is to work on something for a lengthy amount of time and to not have it materialize. It's just, it feels terrible, you know, like I can only imagine like the people who worked on the Discord store and Stadia, like putting that much amount of, even though they weren't working on a game, they're working on a platform to support games, and putting that amount of work on something only to have your parent company sunset it. To me, it's like, it's heartbreaking, you know, and because it's so much work. And then like, even regardless of what happens to the work, there's something about it being out in the wild that's very different than it never seeing the light of day. So yeah, very scary to spend so long on a project, because definitely those questions start to surface where you're like, oh, you know, is this ever going to launch? Is this ever going to, yeah.
Well, congrats on making it to the finish line, because that is a huge accomplishment. And I was curious if, you know, did Nintendo have any, did they provide any like assistance at all, or were they helpful in any way in bringing it to the platform, or was it pretty much, hey, figure it out yourself? Like this is all on you guys.
No, Nintendo has good third-party support. You know, it's I can't say too much about it because it's under NDA, but they have documentation, they have portals, and yeah, I mean they're not funding the game, so I don't think they have their own resources to throw at us, but they have resources that any third-party developer can use, and channels where you can ask questions and basically learn how to bring the game to the Switch.
Yeah, and I guess also kind of impressively, your team is releasing like simultaneously on PlayStation and Xbox too.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is correct.
So that would also take a long time at the very end, wouldn't it, to try to get certification on all the systems?
Yeah, we started porting. I mean, we started porting for the Switch ages ago. We like 2018, and then we started porting for Xbox and PlayStation, and then finishing the Switch more seriously at the beginning of this year. So we did all the ports in like, I guess, 8 months.
Wow.
It's very hard to sim ship on all platforms, and I think if you're at a bigger company that already has experienced engineers who have ported a lot of games before, it's like less bad because you've already got those resources in place. But for a small studio, it's a challenge. And going forward, I think, like, I mean, it remains to be seen, but I feel like a model where we bring the game to Steam first is just going to be way, way better and easier. Yeah, just because it's easier to port to PC than the consoles. Yeah.
Well, and kind of to that point, was there any surprising challenges that came up for any particular console? Was one console easier than the other? Anything that caught you off guard when porting it to any of them or all of them?
So many things. So many things. They all have their quirks and challenges, and they all have places where they're comparatively easier than their other consoles. I think the hardest thing is that because these are, proprietary machines, you've never ported to them before. It's going to be brand new. Whereas, if you're shipping to, I guess, Windows and Mac are proprietary as well, but they just have a much bigger user base. And because, like a Windows computer is a dev machine and also you're a gaming machine, you have kind of this effect where coders and gamers are on the same platform. Whereas on Nintendo, like the dev machines are different than the retail ones. And that just creates like more work and more challenges. Yeah.
This is like a bonus question, which isn't necessary, but would be super impressive. Is it crossplay?
It is crossplay. It's crossplay. Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, we were playing around with the online a bit yesterday, and Tom's been playing around with it even more, and I was immediately impressed by how well it ran. Like, something, as one who plays a lot of Nintendo games, such as Smash Brothers, for instance, I'm always annoyed whenever there's any kind of like input delay that I can perceive as a player. And with King of the Hat, I didn't notice any. Maybe there is some that I didn't pick up on, but in our experience, it ran flawlessly. I'm like, yes, this is what I want. I want my online game to feel like I'm playing it offline, and it seems like you guys nailed it in that sense, which made me very happy.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to I didn't work on the online, but shout out to my team. Shout out to Neil, who did the online. I think there are 4 frames of input delay, maybe 2, but it's extremely thin, and it's like the fastest, it's the lowest latency online pattern you can get.
Wow.
The algorithm is called Rollback. The algorithm sends you first what it thinks your opponent is going to do, and then if your opponent varies, it will correct, and that will change the experience. But the 2 game, I don't want to geek out too much on this.
It works great. I wish hope Nintendo takes some lessons from your game and others that run really well online, because I want Smash Brothers to feel this good. So
yeah.
And I think, speaking of kind of like the whole online multiplayer thing, one of the features of the Steam version, at least, is that not everyone needs to own the game to play. As long as you have a friend with it, then others can download the free client, I believe. Is there an equivalent of that for the consoles, or does everyone need to purchase the game to play together?
So on consoles, that doesn't exist yet. We were thinking of doing it, but we just ran out of time and ran out of money on this project to like keep going before launching it. It is something that we want to do. We want to put that out there. It's just harder to get free games on consoles. Like, most of their games are paid. And yeah, on Steam, you can download the Friend Pass and basically play with your friends and play with anybody else using the Friend Pass. And our want for the future is to make that even more accessible and even more available for people who can't afford the full game, because I think it's just a great way to try before you buy.
And so are people able then to, since it is crossplay, can people download the Steam version and play with someone on Switch the Steam Friend Pass version, for instance, and play with someone on Switch then, or another console?
Yeah, I believe so.
Our quick question that we were wondering, how much hat research did your team do during this project?
Yeah, are you all hat experts now?
I wouldn't call myself an expert, but we did a lot of hat research. Like, I learned that a milliner is a word for somebody that makes hats. So there's that. A haberdasher is another word for someone that makes hats. I know the difference between a trilby and a fedora. I know I know the difference between a snapback and a fitted cap. Really just all these small things. The edge of the hat is called its brim. There's all these little hat quirks to learn about if you really want to.
I love it.
Yeah.
There are a wide variety of hats in the game as well. Like, every character, I think, has their own distinct hat, which is part of the fun. They all feel and look different.
They do.
What's the plan for you guys from here? The game is about to be out, or is out at this time, on consoles. What's next? Are you planning on updating the game? Are you going to move on to another project? Like, do you guys have, or are you guys just taking a break right now that you finally got King of the Hat out on every platform, every major platform?
Yeah, great question. There is a patch in the works. So we do have a first patch that's already been started that's going to have 2 new characters, as well as bug fixes and just stability things from once we launch on console, because once the game's out in the wild, I'm sure we'll have to, just kind of tidy it up and fix some bugs. No estimate on when that patch is going to land, but that is what we've got in the oven for King of the Hat. And beyond that, we are working on a new game. Can't say anything about it, but very exciting to just be working on games still. I'm beyond thrilled to be releasing this game and to be working on something else. And we all love King of the Hat, and we want to patch it. And eventually, like if I'm still living and breathing, I would love to even maybe do a sequel at a certain point in time. No plans for that yet, but the game, I think, is like I'm so proud of it, and I love the game so much that I feel like there's so many ideas that came up during development that would be like, oh well, we can't do this in this one because it won't work, but we'd have to make a sequel to properly flush out those ideas.
Yeah, is there anything you'd be able to share, like any one idea that you maybe want to get into this version and just couldn't make it work?
Like nothing like is set in stone. I want to be like totally clear. There's no plans for a sequel at the moment, but like one thing that we wanted to potentially do, like that we couldn't put in to this version, would be like really like spacing out the characters with more varied move sets. So for example, like one character's hat like goes in a spiral, or maybe one character has 3 hats, or like maybe giving the hat like a command of attacks that it can do like in the air. Just crazy stuff like this that really like kind of expand on the game's unique mechanic and just goes even deeper into that kind of that world.
To backtrack on the patch update, are those 2 new characters on top of the extra like new character already coming out of the console launch?
Yes, those are 2 new characters that are going to land for the first patch.
Well, that's exciting. All right, yeah, the character. I love the cast in the game. Everyone feels distinct, as I mentioned. So I can't wait to see who these upcoming characters are. I guess to kind of start wrapping it up, is there any standout moment from the entire development of King of the Hat that really stood out to you? Like whether a high point or a low point or anything just interesting that you remember from making this game?
Yeah, so many things. I don't know how to pick one. So many. Let me just. I mean, there's so many. Like at one point, there was just this theme of constantly laying the pavement as we go.
Right.
Like, there's another developer on the team, Chris, who was offering anybody who could beat him at the game $100. I think he went on for like 2.5 years without dropping a single. And then he lost to like a new character that's in the final game, Copernicus, that just wasn't balanced yet. He lost to a bug because Copernicus was a bug. And it was devastating. I remember being in that parking lot and just feeling like, oh, that wasn't even a good win. Like it's not you want to feel like it wasn't even something that we felt like we were like the opponent had like really outplayed him. It was just like, oh, this character is not balanced yet. And we had to learn the hard way that the character wasn't balanced. So that definitely was one beat throughout the journey.
So I guess that's something that that person can cling to. It's like, well, I only lost because they were unbalanced and broken.
Yeah, and I think he went back after losing the $100 and like offered double or nothing, and the person just refused. It was just like, no, I'm actually good with the $100.
I love it. No, yeah, take just run off with your winnings. Like, yeah, you don't want to chance that. So, Tom, do you have any other questions?
Oh, I just wanted to say congratulations to you and your team. It's just so great to see King of the Hat coming out. I unlocked one of the other characters the other day, and I just laughed so much because Washing Machine is one of my favorite characters. I'll just say that. So
I'm pretty good with them, unfortunately, for me.
Thank you both for having us. No one else is with me, but like me on behalf of the team on GameXplain again. Super awesome that you guys covered us in 2018, and I'm so thrilled to do a follow-up interview 5 years later.
Yeah, so are we. I'm, like I said, from day one, I was so excited to finally play this game on Switch, and here we are. So congrats again on making it to the finish line. It's gotta feel great. And for everyone at home, go check out King of the Hat, regardless of its platform, because it's on pretty much everything. Pretty much, if not at the time of this video, soon after. Like, what's the official release date?
It's 16 UDT, so that's 12 EST or 9 Pacific time, and Yeah.
Right, yeah, well, there you go. You have a whole day's worth of King of the Hat if you're on the West Coast. So I'll know I'll be there playing it. And on that note, everyone, thanks for watching. And Ben, if people want to follow you or the studio's games, where can they follow you guys at?
You can follow us at King of the Hat on Twitter or discord.gg/King of the Hat, or you can go on our Steam page, King of the Hat, and leave us a comment there. Yeah.
Perfect. Go do that. You'll find links to everything in the description below, including where to buy this game. And on that note, we're about done here. So Ben, thanks again for joining us, and once again, congrats on finishing King of the Hat. And I can't wait to play the finished game.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, have a good one. Bye.
Bye.